Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our deep dive into Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra book. And we are now on a section that's titled The Voluntary Beggar, which should be quite interesting. Okay, he's been saucy for other topics, and so I expect this one to be quite unique as well. Let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When Zarathustra had left the ugliest man, he felt frozen and lonely, for much that was cold and lonely passed through his mind, and made his limbs too feel colder. But as he climbed on and on, up and down, now past green pastures, then Assalamualaikum Ishfaq, he felt warmer and warmer, more cheerful again. What happened to me, he asked himself. Something warm and alive refreshes me, something that must be near me. Even now I am less alone. Unknown companions and brothers roam about me. Their warm breath touches my soul. But when he looked around to find those who had comforted his loneliness, behold, they were cows standing together on a knoll. Their proximity and smell had warmed his heart. These cows, however, seemed to be listening eagerly to a speaker, and did not heed him that was approaching. But when Zarathustra had come quite close to them, he heard distinctly that a human voice was speaking in the middle of the herd, and they had evidently all turned their heads toward the speaker. Now, this is literal cows versus sort of metaphorical cows. You know how some people will say things like the sheeple in the Quran, there's this phrasing of like they're like cattle. Okay? Now, let me give you an example about some cows. You play the violin or some instrument, the cows will all come to you and stare at you and watch you. Cows are very curious creatures, okay? And they will come in groups. And if you make noises and you're calling to them, they'll come. Like if you are the farmer they're used to, you sit down in the middle of the field, pretend to cry or something. The cows see, they'll often come over and look at you and gather around you to see what you're doing and lick your head. A cow lick is when a cow licks your head and it messes up your hair as a guy. And makes it go like... cows are very social. But they get scared really easy as well. So, remember, we could be talking about literal cows, but also the metaphor of the human cow. Thereupon Zarathustra jumped up eagerly and pushed the animals apart, for he was afraid that somebody had suffered some harm here. Oh, that's interesting, you see. So, as I just mentioned, if you pretend to cry, the cows will come to you. So if you actually got hurt as a farmer, your cows saw, they would often, they'll come over to you. So where cows gather, there's usually something going on, which the pity of cows could scarcely cure. Exactly, see, the pity of cows, as I mentioned. But he was wrong, for behold, there sat a man on the ground, and he seemed to be urging the animals to have no fear of him. A peaceful man, a sermonizer, on the mount of whose eyes goodness itself was preaching. Do you seek here? Shouted Zarathustra, amazed. What do I seek here? He replied. The same thing you're seeking, you disturber of the peace, happiness on earth. But I want to learn that from these cows. For I have already been urging them half the morning, and just now they wanted to tell me pardon me, why do you disturb them? Except we turn back and become as cows, we shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay, notice this. So, we turn back, become as cows. Assalamu alaikum, magic. For we ought to learn one thing from them, chewing the cud. Now, if you're not familiar, cows, they do chew a lot. They just grind it on some heavy grasses that would be quite difficult for our jaws. And chewing the cud is a long process. And some have argued that, the cows are so distracted with eating that this is kind of like, okay, you know how a pig will roll in the mud? They're always got their snout in the ground, right? So when you're like, oh, you're just chewing the cud, you're just lollygagging, dilly-dallying. You're like a cow chewing the cud. These are phrases that people can use for people. And verily, what would it profit a man if he gained the whole world and did not learn this one thing, chewing the cud? See, yes, I was on the right track. Yeah, Nietzsche has a great way of playing with the metaphors and the real world and connecting them. He would not get rid of his melancholy. Okay, sometimes if you're ever talking to your kid, I mean, sometimes I'll say something, she'll ask me a question, and I'll say, like, let it marinate for a second. And what does marinate mean? You absorb. When chicken or beef, whatever you're marinating, is absorbing the flavors. You don't want to marinate. You want to go from at least, don't go past 24 hours of marination because the acid will make it mushy, your meat. But the point is that when you marinate, it seeps into the meat and changes the flavor, right? And so when you can say, chew the cud, let it marinate, there's these phrases in natural language we use to kind of speak for something else. And it's quite fascinating. So Nietzsche is also doing that here. He will not get rid of his melancholy, his great melancholy. But today that is called nausea. So melancholy, nausea. Okay? Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Main Event. Why do not people on here and elsewhere address you as a scholar when you're our ikhwa scholar? I'll be like a pro scholar with like a certificate one day, fam. But I think you gotta have that certification, I think some people say. Who today does not have his heart, mouth and eyes full of nausea? So here, this is clever. Why? Your heart, how can your heart have nausea? And your mouth, we know how that feels, but your eyes. He's taking something that is of the mouth and passing it on to other parts of the body. When your mouth is just like loose, it doesn't want to salivate, it doesn't like what it's looking at. When the heart is just fed up, okay? So the nauseous feeling affecting the whole body. You too, but behold these cows. Thus spoke the sermonizer on the mount, and then he turned his own eyes towards Zarathustra, for until they had dwelt lovingly on the cows. But then his eyes changed. Who is this to whom I am talking? He cried, startled, and jumped up from the ground. This is the man without nausea. This is Zarathustra himself. Without the man without nausea. Okay, think about the man who doesn't loathe the stupid one among him. Okay, these people are around the cows. Some of them are a bit melancholy, and they feel nauseous in their heart and mouth and eyes. Okay? Have you ever met somebody, like, think of Douglas Murray when he was debating Dave Smith. He had this pretentious, smug arrogance where he just felt irritated that he had to explain his ideas to the plebs. A lot of liberals, unfortunately, but also, okay, so a stubborn cow, like bullheaded, could be an ignorant rural Republican, and then a snarky, smug, like they loathe the plebs, is a downtown San Franciscan, Manhattan Democrat or a liberal progressive, where they expect you to know. And if you ask, can you explain that? Can you cite that? What are you talking about? They're kind of like, well, you should already know, these dumb cows. Because a cow, if you're milking them, sometimes they'll step on your foot. You can tie their legs, but sometimes they still will finagle and knock over the bucket, right? And so, if you've ever met someone who loathes questions, like they act like they know it all, but they loathe the cattle, they loathe the sheeple. You'll see this a lot on right-wing stuff. For example, okay, let me give you a real world example because this is an interesting thing he's done here with this play of words. So follow me here. Patrick McDavid has on Sam Cedar, I think his name was, and they will interview liberals, right? But you can tell how Vinny, the guy Vinny who's always shouting, they get they think that they don't have to prove their ideas to the liberal, but they grill the liberal, and the liberal will sometimes answer them back, right? But on PBD, they just expect people to believe whatever it is they're saying without backing it up sometimes. So there's this dynamic of once someone has reached a certain level of prestige, of knowledge, when someone asks them a question, they're like, ugh, how dare you just not blindly accept it? Oh, these stupid plebs, they don't know. These plebs don't know what I'm talking about. So you get that. And I've had that experience in my life as well. And I try really hard to not do that myself. Douglas says, the English major expert on Palestine was a joke on Joe Rogan. Exactly. Assalamu alaikum, Salham. And so just remember when he says, this is the man without nausea, this is Zarathustra himself. Remember, the character Zarathustra has talked to all kinds of people on his journey, right? We have to remember that. So he'll talk to the magician, he'll talk to beggars, he'll talk to hermits, he'll talk to all kinds of people. He'll address the ribble rabble. Remember, he insulted the holy clergy of the Catholic Church, that they had no wisdom and stuff like that, right? So he doesn't just say ignore the plebs and only go to the stamped people, and he does a lot more than just sit on his high horse. Okay, the man who overcame the great nausea. This is the eye. This is the mouth. This is the heart of Zarathustra himself. As he spoke thus, he kissed the hands of the man to whom he was talking, and his eyes welled over, and he behaved exactly as one to whom a precious gift and treasure falls unexpectedly from the sky. But the cows watched all this with amazement. Now, okay, the cow example, okay? How cows behave, and also how human cows behave. It's all very related, okay? Just when you think about how we do today, your chicken liver, your lily liver, your chicken legs, your chicken blood. Chicken blood was common when I was growing up. You're always afraid and spooked. Bullheaded, you know. You were not someone who would listen or heed to something, and you were like a bull in a china shop. You were very rugged and rough, in a place of refinement and daintiness. Rabid. Rabid is often a word used to describe a dog that goes around mauling and is uncontrollable. Right? Lone wolf. We have phrases that mix animalistic behavior with the human behavior and then create a sort of human-animal hybrid in our language. And this is something very common. Okay? And so, when he's talking about the cows watch with all this amazement, you can think about how some people, they're very, like, innocent, and then they come and they watch what's happening. They're more of an observer than a participator, right? So, you know, cows will follow more than they will lead, you know? It's quite fascinating. Bulls are funny when the way in which they try to herd the female heifers. But you take out the bull from the pen, and all the girl cows will come to him. It's really quite fascinating. Saul Heyman says, PB's co-host is a J, right? Oh, that's Adams the J, yeah. Every major right-wing podcast has at least one of those entities. Yeah, they have to. That's their handlers. Do not speak of me, you who are so strange, so lovely, Zarathustra said and restrained his tender affection. First speak to me of yourself. Are you not the voluntary beggar who once threw away great riches? Okay, so what does this hint at? The Buddha. Now, sometimes I mess up his name. Siddhartha. Okay, you got the fat Buddha of the Mandarins, who's like bald and smiling. Then you got the skinny Buddha who sits under the tree, the baobab tree. I can't pronounce it. And he left his palace, and then, you know, wanted to be released from suffering and the whole journey, right? So they had to beg, you know. And also you can think of the priests, like for example, the Jesuits. They gotta renounce everything, and they do a thing where they do beg people for food. Okay. Now in Islam, you don't beg. It's better for you to go and sell wood and earn your daily bread yourself. To not be a persistent, uh, pressuring, antagonizing beggar. To not be a sloth like, to not be lazy, but to go out and bust your back and earn your life. Okay? But there is a time where obviously people are gonna, they might be in a state where they can't not beg, right? They have to do it. So remember the word voluntary here. Someone who gave up riches to then become a beggar, right? When usually someone begs in hopes of becoming rich. Here's the play there. Who was ashamed of his riches and of the rich, and fled to the poorest to give them his fullness and his heart. But they did not accept him. But they did not accept me, said the voluntary beggar. You know it. So I finally went to the animals and these cows. So this is a common thing that humans do. That's why you got the cat lady. My grandma was a dog lady. People will pull away from humans, and they will start to go around animals more, right? It's interesting, you know. Saul Heyman says not to backbite the brother, but Hamza's den is always asking for charity. Yeah, he should go get a job. My husband works 3 jobs and then has a 2 side hustles. So Hamza can use his back and go out and get a job. That's what he can do. Okay. He got into debt, traveling around. He can go sell something. He can go work. He can go do landscaping. He can go learn being a plumber. He can go to be an arborist where they cut down trees. He can do something. He can go work on a chicken farm. But he just thinks he's too good to get his little soft, precious hands dirty. And I have no respect for him. A man who begs online, an e-beggar, is disgusting. Nothing wrong with saying, hey, tip, do this, do that, hey, once in a blue moon, right? But if you're constantly berating your audience, like, give me money, I need money, it's like, stop it, get a job, okay? You can work at 7-Eleven, you can drive Uber, you can do DoorDash, you can do Instacart, you can work at the post office, okay? You can do something. You can sell mangoes in the street with chili powder, lime, and everything like the Latinos do in America. Latinos hustles. Saul Heyman says the UK has a ton of trade jobs. There you go. Yeah. And he's born in the UK. He's a citizen. So what's his excuse? If immigrants can come there and grind and work jobs and open businesses, like look at the Chinese. Chinese come to America, they open laundromats and nail salons. Like that's amazing. And some of them they barely speak English. Then they get it done. They hustle. I mean, I really am impressed with that community. So Hamza doesn't have a disability. He's not a veteran missing a leg. He can go get a damn job is what he can do. And he deserves to be punished for spending willy-nilly. He has to pinch his pockets. You know? Go grind. But it's easier to just e-beg. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So yes, the begging aspect. And that's an interesting thing. Yes, very different. Yeah. There you have learned, Zarathustra interrupted. The speaker. How right giving is harder than right receiving. And to that give presents well is an art, and the ultimate and most cunning master of graciousness. Especially today, answered the voluntary beggar. Today I mean when everything base has become rebellious and shy. In its own way. Arrogant, I mean. In the way of the mob. For the hour has come, you know it, for the great bad long slow revolt of the mob and slaves. It grows and grows. Now the base are outraged by any charity and any little giving away. And the over-rich should beware. Whoever drips today like bulging bottles out of the two narrow necks, such bottles they like to seize today to break their necks. Lavish greed, galled envy. Ooh, I like this phrase, galled envy. I remember in Macbeth, Lady Macbeth says, "And take my breasts for gall." That's an old school world. Galled envy. Lascivious greed. Aggrieved vengefulness. Mob pride. Look at that. Excellent term share for us. And that leaped into my face. It is no longer true that the poor are blessed, but the kingdom of heaven is among the cows. So notice this, the kingdom of heaven is among the cows. Now, he's done two things here. The really wealthy can despise the lowest levels of the pyramid, right? And if you take a posh lady and give her a tour, not of the fancy horse stable where the stable hands to do everything, right? She gets to go pet her pony. No, that's not the same. If you take her to a pigsty, a chicken coop, a place where the animals congregate, the stench of manure, right? She's just like in her silk shoes and her pearl necklace and like, oh, I can't be bothered. It's so dirty here. You know, they think they're better than, right? It's like they've been sheltered. But there's something raw in saying that the kingdom of heaven is amongst the cows, because this has a twofold way of looking at it. There's a way of the ribble rabble of the common people, but there's also just the simple folk who are not vultures, right? The cow is a very significant thing when you look at the symbolism of it. How many things we get from cows, how much meat you get from a cow, how easy it is to take care of a cow. Now, mind you, bulls, watch out, they're gonna smush you, okay? But a docile Jersey cow is gonna give you lots of milk, and they're pretty good, buddy. You can get so many pounds of wonderful red meat. You can use their bones to make bone broth, bones to crack open, eat the marrow. You take the tongue, you make tongue tacos. The stomach, you make a soup called menudo. It's so good. I mean, the hairs, you can make them into a brush. The pelts, you can make a blanket. They're very useful, right? The people, the common people are very useful, okay? And those who are put in charge to govern, to shepherd the cattle, you don't want a factory farmer, you want a pasture-raised type of arrangement. You see what I'm getting at here? How a nation treats their cows is often how they view their plebs as well. It's all related. It's really quite fascinating when you look at it. Saul Saman says, my family in Puerto Rico owned a peach tree farm. They had a variety of animals too. I wish I visited more. Oh, fresh. I haven't had fresh peaches in over like 15 years. The ones in the store, they're hard as a rock. But a fresh peach right off the tree, the smell is like you can't beat it. No one grows peaches around here, and every time I go to the store, there's just nectarines and plums, and they're super hard. But there's a festival in Utah called Peach Days. I don't know if they still do it. But the peach farmers in Brigham City, Utah, I don't know if they still do it. They would have a whole peach festival. Peach cobbler, peach smoothies, peach ice cream, peach jellies. Everything you could think of. And the smell. Oh, it was wonderful. Just the best peaches you ever had. That's the best fruit if you can get it off the tree, super ripe. Oh my gosh, I haven't had a real peach in years. I haven't traveled back to Utah, but it's peaches are just great, absolutely great fruit. And why is it not among the rich? Asked Zarathustra temptingly, as he warded off the cows, which were breathing trustingly on this peaceful man. Why do you tempt me? He replied. You yourself know it even better than I. What was it, after all, that drove me to the poorest, O Zarathustra? Was it not that I was nauseated by our richest men? Aha! Nauseated by our richest men. Think about in the Hunger Games, there's a scene where the rich gorge themselves and then they purposely vomit so they can keep on eating, right? And think about, okay, there was a reel I saw, and there was a woman who took her high heel shoe and stepped on her, obviously, um, what do you call it? Like stepping on the cake. It's like a fancy cake. And somebody brilliantly took a video, I think it was in Zimbabwe, where, oh, it's such a cute, it breaks my heart, but the children are so adorable. They're lining up to get rice and beans and an apple on their little plates, and these little kids are really poor, and they're very hungry, but they're waiting in line like good little children, and they're getting their plate of food. So somebody spliced together the clip of the rich woman who has like a fancy dress and her fancy high heels, and she's stepping on a cake that you know is gonna be at least $100, okay? At least. And it's no one's gonna want to eat the cake after you've stepped on it with your shoe, you know? I mean, that's really gross. And obviously she bought that cake just to do that stunt at her wedding. They have another cake. The fact they can afford multiple cakes just shows you the waste. And then someone spliced it with somebody having to split the food amongst the little children, and how they're just innocent. And then it just showed, the American Western type of pompous gluttony waste. It saw him in waste, exactly. And so when he says here, like, I was nauseated by our richest men, there are behaviors that the rich can do that you're just like, why? Why would you do that? But they do it because they can, and they don't look at money the same way. They're almost dulled by money. Like, think of, okay, let's go deep. In the show Succession on HBO, there's a character called, well, all the children are spoiled, right? But the dad, Logan Roy, asks one of his children, like, how much is a gallon of milk? Like, how much is milk? And they don't know. And you see that Roman and Kendall, these are two people who spend their money partying, and they spend time really indulging in sin. And you're thinking to yourself, you're on top of the world. Your dad owns all these news corporations. You're living the high life, and how do you use it? You're just getting high all the time. Like, what is this? And there's a scene where they go to one of the estates of the dad. There's a dead raccoon or something in the chimney that makes everything stink. So he tells the workers, throw away all the food and bring pizzas instead. And you're like, and then you watch these wait staff, like the kind that cost a lot of money, take the food and dump it into the trash bins. And you're looking at that like, well, the food wasn't tampered with. I mean, you could, like, why not offer the staff to eat it? Like, if you want to take it home, take it home. But no, just dump it. This also reminds me, when I was a server in many restaurants, they just throw away so much food. And the bosses, they have money, right? They don't give a damn if their employees are hungry. They nickel and dime their own employees. And so you just look at it and you're like, what in the world? There's things that, like when Mayweather buys a $2 million watch, you're like, why? Your phone's got the time. Like, what is wrong with you? But again, the things that some rich people do, they'll make you nauseous. They'll make you sick. Because, hold on. Because it's nonsensical. So some people might first read what Nietzsche wrote and be like, I don't get it. But that's, think of those examples that I gave. By the convicts of riches, who pick up their advantage out of any rubbish, with cold eyes, lewd thoughts. By this rabble that stinks to high heaven. By this gilded false mob whose fathers have been pickpockets, or carrion birds, or rag pickers with women, obliging, lascivious, and forgetful. For none of them is too far from the whore's mob above and mob below. What do poor and rich matter today? This difference I have forgotten. I fled farther, even farther, till I came to these cows. Thus spoke the peaceful man, and he himself breathed hard and sweated as he spoke, so that the cows were amazed again. But Zarathustra kept looking into his face, smiling as he spoke so harshly, and silently he shook his head. You do yourself violence, you, sermonizer on the mount, when you use such harsh words. Your mouth was not formed for such harshness, nor your eyes, nor it seems to me your stomach either. It is offended by all such wrath and hatred and frothing. Your stomach wants gentler things. Aha! Your stomach wants gentler things. So, wrath, hatred, and frothing. Sour stomachs. She's trying to get at, you're to be constantly in a state of hubbub. Like, the way Tim Pool will say Civil War over and over and be very, very angry, you wonder why he doesn't have, like, a stomach ulcer or hemorrhoids. The constant stress, the constant anger. Because you can report a story with being more stoic, but when somebody is constantly angry, like Vinny on the PBD podcast, you're like, hey man, you're gonna like burst a brain vein or something. You gotta calm yourself down. You can express distaste for something without frothing. You know what I mean? So he has a point here. You are no butcher. You seem more like a plant and root man to me. So here, yeah, it's Tim Civil War Pool, you know. Now here, what does he get at? You are no butcher. You seem more of a plant and root man to me. You ever seen somebody who has a green thumb that got away with plants? They're like, okay, they organize their plots. Okay, this plant is suffering. Let's give them some, vitamins, nitrogen in the soil, coffee ground, eggshells. Okay, this tree is the goats are chewing off the bark. Let's build something around it. Oh no, this tree is getting attacked by too many fruit birds. We're gonna have to put a net around it. So it's much different, right? The brain of someone who is more plant and root based. Okay? Their hands, one hand is covered in soil. The butcher's is covered in blood, and he has to be more, like, you have to be delicate and soft when you touch certain plants. You have to be like, okay, careful. You're taking care of an orchid. You're taking care of a little tiny sprout. You gotta nurture it. You gotta be different energy. When you're a butcher, sure, you gotta be nice, but you gotta hold that animal down. And you gotta be fine with the smell that comes with that. You got like the gardener has a different uniform than the butcher. And the butcher has to do the dirty job that a lot of people don't want to do. And I did a little bit of butchery for a while when the carcass was already processed. So I didn't have to put the knife to the animal. But you learn a lot when you see the whole pieces, right? And you're like, dang, you gotta break all that down. How much work it takes. The bones, the veins. It's fascinating, right? And it's a different mindset when you meet. Think of Bill the Butcher from Gangs of New York, right? The butcher, even in cinema, has a certain type of ethos, right? If you go to old school Italian neighborhoods, the butcher has a different look to him. An Irish neighborhood back in the 1920s, the butcher has a different look. Somebody who's handling meat all day is different than someone who's working in the nursery or working in the cornfield. The elements change the way they look, and the type of people they deal with are different as well, right? And, when you're a butcher, you're going to come across, an infected animal, got to discard that meat. When you are working in the farm, you see one of your trees has a bug infestation. You have to deal with different things. Or some locusts came, ate up your stuff. You're like, oh dang. So the way in which you operate. A butcher, when you look at it, think of a stereotype and an icon. That would be someone I would be more afraid of. Why? They're more desensitized. That's why if you think in The Sopranos, when Tony and them they own a butcher shop, I believe, and Christopher Moltisanti, they take a guy and they process him as they would process a cow in the back room. All right. Now Christopher was not a butcher, but they got the tools to do it. And so you're like, oh snap! Like a person who is desensitized to that level, when you look at the human body, it's really like red meat, like pork sometimes too. It's there's there's a famous like in the HBO series Rome. No, no, they said that too. But hold on, it was Jamie Lannister in Game of Thrones who said like the first time he sliced somebody with his sword, it's like, oh, we're just a bag of bones and meat, right? When you think about how previous battles, people had to be up close and kind of see how the human body is meaty. You know, it's kind of scary, right? So him is some of the best fight scenes in animated or in a butcher's warehouse. Oh yes. So just picture the plant and root man versus the butcher. So when Nietzsche says, "Your stomach wants gentler things, you're no butcher." Now, to be a butcher, you got to have a strong stomach, as I mentioned. You can't be a crying, bumbling vegan when you have this huge bison or a moose that's got to be broken down and you're crying over it. You know, you're like, no, the animal's gone. These people got to eat. Let's get this broken down. Let's get some ribeyes on the grill. Let's get some sausages made. Let's get it done. Where a plant and root animal takes more time. Okay, I got to plant these seeds in this season. Okay, the eggplants are coming along. Okay, the tomatoes are still green. It's different. It's patience. To be a plant person, you need to have patience. Whereas with the butchery, you gotta get it done. You gotta process things, and you can't sit there crying because the meat's gonna get bad. It's gotta be refrigerated. You know, Saul says, vegan would kill over they met a butcher at work. Yeah. So Nietzsche is having a clever insult here, but also prescribing a better lifestyle that's suited to this person's personality. Perhaps you gnash grain. Certainly, however, you are averse to the joys of the flesh, and you love honey. You have unriddled me well, answered the voluntary beggar, his heart relieved. I love honey, I also gnash grain, for I sought what tastes lovely and gives a pure breath. Also, what takes a long time, a day's and a mouth work for gentle eaters and loafers, nobody to be sure, has achieved more than these cows. They invented for themselves chewing the cud and lying in the sun, and they abstain from all grave thoughts, which bloat the heart. Well then, said Zarathustra, you should also see my animals, my eagle and my serpent. Their like is not to be found on earth today. Behold, there goes the way to my cave. Be it guests tonight, and talk with my animals of the happiest of animals, till I myself return home. For now I cry of distress urgently calls me away from you. For you will also find new honey in my cave, ice fresh, golden comb honey. Eat that. But now quickly take leave from your cows, you who are so strange, lovely, though it may be hard for you, for they are your warmest friends and teachers, excepting one whom I love still more, answered the voluntary beggar. You yourself are good, and even better than a cow. I'm sorry, okay, we Muslims don't do Valentine's Day, but imagine if you wrote on your woman's or husband's or whoever Valentine's card, and you were like, "You are better than a cow." My husband comes home with the toddler. I might just say that to him later on. I want to see what he says. Like, you, you are good, and you're even better than a cow. Let's see what he says. Let's have like some Nietzschean compliments here, right? Away, away with you, you wicked flatterer, Zarathustra cried with malice. Why do you corrupt me with such praise and honey flattery? Away, away from me, he cried. Once more, and brandished his stick at the affectionate beggar, who ran away quickly. So, we mentioned last time flattery, okay? The brown noser. Why do we call someone a brown noser at work? Because they got their nose up the boss's bunghole. Because of how they are always ass kissing. They're always flattering, charming, manipulating, conniving, agenda driving. So you don't really trust them. The flatterer is not to be trusted. Now, genuine compliments are different. But a flatterer is definitely not somebody who you take idly, and you should be very careful. And if someone only wants flatterers around them, which also take the form of yes men, you gotta be careful. Okay, now we're in a new section titled The Shadow. But as soon as the voluntary beggar had run away, and Zarathustra was alone again, he heard a new voice behind him, shouting, "Stop, Zarathustra, wait! It is I, O Zarathustra, I, your shadow!" But Zarathustra did not wait, for a sudden annoyance came over him at the many intruders and obtruders in his mountains. "Where has my solitude gone?" he said. "Verily it is becoming too much for me. This mountain range is teeming. My kingdom is no longer of this world. I need new mountains. My shadow calls me. What does my shadow matter? Let him run after me. I shall run away from him." Thus spoke Zarathustra to his heart, and he ran away. But he who was behind him followed him, so that soon there were 3 runners, one behind the other, first the voluntary beggar, then Zarathustra, and third and last his shadow. It was not long that they ran this way, before Zarathustra realized his folly, and with a single shrug shook off all discontent and disgust. "Well," he said, "have not the most ridiculous things always happened among us old hermits and saints? Verily my folly has grown tall in the mountains. Now I hear 6 old fools' legs clattering along in a row. But may Zarathustra be afraid of a shadow? Moreover, it seems to me that he has longer legs than I." Thus spoke Zarathustra, laughing with his eyes and entrails. He stopped quickly and turned around, and behold, he almost threw his follower and shadow to the ground. So close was the shadow by then, so weak, too. And when Zarathustra examined him with his eyes, he was startled as by a sudden ghost, so thin, swarthy, hollow, and outlived did this follower look. "Who are you?" Zarathustra asked violently. "What are you doing here? And why do you call yourself my shadow? I don't like you." "Forgive me," answered the shadow, "that it is I, and if you do not like me, well then, O Zarathustra, for that I praise you and your good taste. I am a wanderer who has already walked a great deal at your heels, always on my way, but without any goal, also without any home, so that I really lack little toward being the eternal Jew, unless it be that I am not eternal and not a Jew. How must I always be on my way, rolled by every wind, restless driven, O earth, thou hast become too round for me. Too round. I have already set on every surface." Ooh, that's cool. Traveling to the point where you've set on all those different surfaces, that's cool. "Like weary dust, I have gone to sleep on mirrors and window panes. Everything takes away from me. Nothing gives. I become thin. I'm almost like a shadow. But after you, O Zarathustra, I flew and blew the longest, and even when I hid from you, I was still your best shadow. Wherever you sat, I sat too." So it sounds like a stalker. Sounds like Smeagol when he was following the companions of the ring, the Fellowship of the Ring members, right? And he's like, what's that creature? And Gandalf's like, it's, Smeagol, Gollum, whatever. It sounds like that. That'd be creepy as hell. I'd be like, you've been following me this whole time? Punch him right in the nose. With you I haunted the remotest, coldest worlds like a ghost that runs voluntarily over wintry roofs and snow. With you I strove to penetrate everything that is forbidden, worst, remotest. And if there is anything in me that is virtue, it is that I had no fear of any forbiddance. With you I broke whatever my heart revered. I overthrew all boundary stones and images. I pursued the most dangerous wishes. Verily over every crime I have passed once. Oh dang, that every crime? That sounds kind of scary. With you I unlearned faith in words and values and great names. When the devil sheds his skin, does not his name fall off too? For that too is skin. Hey. Name and skin, that's an interesting angle. Name, skin, identity. But, I mean, a snake sheds its skin, still that snake. Even if there's a form of rejuvenation, right? But I get what they mean. The outer appearance changes, and some people feel they've been made anew. Nothing is... Oh, that it says here, for that too is skin. The devil himself is perhaps skin. Nothing is true, all is permitted. Ooh, that's a spicy line right there. Nothing is true, all is permitted. Oh my goodness. Thus I spoke to myself. In the coldest waters I plunged, with head and heart. Alas, how often have I stood there afterward, naked as a red crab. Alas, where has all that is good gone from me, and all the same, all the shame, and all faith in those who are good? Alas, where is this mendacious innocence that I once possessed, the innocence of the good and their noble lies? Noble lies. Noble lies. Well, when you committed every crime, and you broke away through fears, and you passed the boundaries and did dangerous things, that's where your innocence left. I mean, he answered his own question. Hello? You can't remain innocent when you're doing bad things. Too often, verily, did I follow close on the heels of truth. So she kicked me in the face. Sometimes I thought I was lying. And behold, only then did I hit the truth. Saul Heyman says, nothing is true, all is permitted. I think I heard this quote from Assassin's Creed, or at least something very similar. Oh, in a video game? That's nice. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Alexios. Sometimes I thought I was lying and beheld. Only then did I hit the truth. Too much has become clear to me. Now it is no longer concerns me. Nothing is alive any more that I love. How should I still love myself? To live as it pleases me, or not to live at all. That is what I want. That is what the saintliest want too. But alas, how could anything please me any more? Do I have a goal any more? A haven toward which my sail is set? A good wind? Alas, only he who knows where he is sailing also knows which wind is good, and the right wind for him. Oh, so that's a good point. Navigation, moral compass, direction, aimlessness, goal orientation. Okay? The finish line. When you know where you're headed, then you can navigate better. How can you set your sail? This is very nautical language here. Very nautical language. What is left to me now? A heart weary and impudent, a restless will flutter wings, a broken backbone, trying thus to find my home. O Zarathustra, do you know it? Trying This was my trial. It consumes me. Where is my home? I ask and search and have searched for it, but I have not found it. O eternal everywhere. O eternal nowhere. O eternal in vain. That's a tense line right there. Eternal nowhere. Now, to have your home is, you know how people say, pardon me, home is where the heart is. Okay? There's nothing as good as home. Now, in Islam, we have the home of the hereafter. This is not our final home. So we know where we're striving when you really look at it. Do good deeds. Try to not do things that earn you places in hell. Okay? We have the Quran, the Sunnah, right? And then Sharia law, right? To be our moral compass, our blueprint, our map, to help us navigate our lives. All of us are on a path to, like, your circumstances are different than mine, but we all got the same blueprint, and so we're going to apply the different solutions to our lives that help us to get back on the straight path, to get back on the way. And then we will not be in an eternal nowhere. And wherever we are, we'll always have a guide map, because we have our religion. And so this is a very potent line when you really reflect upon it. Thus spoke the shadow, and Zarathustra's face grew long as he listened. You are my shadow, he finally said, sadly. Your danger is no small one, you free spirit and wanderer. You have had a bad day. See to it that you do not have still a worse evening. Oh, that's a great phrase. I had a bad day. Well, see to it that you don't have still a worse evening. See, Nietzsche really puts these great phrases here. I've never heard that before. To those who are as restless as you, even a jail will at last seem bliss. Have you ever seen how imprisoned criminals sleep? They sleep calmly, enjoying their new security. Ooh. Beware lest a narrow faith imprison you in the end. Some harsh and severe illusion. For whatever is narrow and solid seduces and tempts you now. Okay, whatever is narrow and solid. Ooh. Now notice here. The criminals sleep calmly because of their new security. Hinting at when a person feels secure, they sleep better. But how can somebody really feel like... I mean, the too many cellies shank each other and R-word each other. I don't think it depends on who's your cellmate if you're gonna sleep okay, right? You have lost your goal. But like, when you're outside in the elements, camping in bushcraft, you wake at every sound of a coyote or a bear. And you're like, what was that? Or some weirdo hobo in the woods. Come on to jack your stuff. So your ears, when you're out in the elements and you're camping, are fine-tuned. Versus when you're in a prison cell, there's not too much sound stimulation. So it's almost because of that secured element of the thick door, a very tiny window. You know, depending if you're like in San Quentin, you have bars and you're not really going to sleep too good because of all the noise, depending on the design of the prison. But if you're in a modern prison building, there's not too many sounds. And so you can sleep differently. But I'd also argue that some people sleep better with sound, as in the ruckus of, like, if you live by the freeway and the cars are going by, you hear that. You live by a hospital, there's sirens. You live by a kid's school, you're always going to hear kids playing in the playground during recess. Whereas others, they like as much silence as possible within the still woods. So I think it depends, you know. Because some homeless people, they're under a bridge and they're just totally exposed. Well, some of them might be high on drugs, but they are passed out. Whereas someone who lives in an apartment or they work a lot in an office, they have to take sleeping pills in order to sleep, even though they got more security than the hobo who's sleeping under the bridge or sleeping in their car in the ghetto. You know what I mean? So I can see his point, but I can also see modern examples where too much security can make it so that you don't sleep because you're isolated and you pace back and forth and you're restless. So it depends. Really depends. You have lost your goal. Alas, how will you digest and jest over this lost? With this you have lost also your way, you poor roaming enthusiast. You weary butterfly, would you have a rest and home this evening? Then go up to my cave. Up there goes the path to my cave. So he keeps sending everybody to his cave, but he complained that there's the mountains are too teeming with people, which is kind of funny. So Heyman says, the homeless are typically numb to life generally speaking. They also chose to sleep on the streets at times. It might not be a one-to-one comparison. Fair point. And now, let me quickly run away from you again. Even now a shadow seems to lie over me. I want to run alone, so that it may become bright around me again. For that I shall still have to stay merrily on my legs a long time. In the evening, however, there will be dancing in my cave. Thus spoke Zarathustra. So, he's inviting a lot of characters to dance in his cave. If someone invites you to their cave to dance, I'd be like, yeah, that's gonna be a no from me. I'm not going to no damn cave with you. At noon. The news section is titled At Noon. That's when the sun is up in the sky the most and it's usually the hottest. And Zarathustra ran and did not find anybody anymore. And he was alone and found himself again and again. And he enjoyed and quaffed his solitude and thought of good things for hours. But around the hour of noon, when the sun stood straight over Zarathustra's head, he had came to an old crooked and knotty tree that was embraced and hidden from itself by the rich love of a grapevine, and yellow grapes hung from it in abundance, inviting the wanderer. Then he felt a desire to quench a slight thirst and to break off a grape. But even as he was stretching out his arm to do so, he felt a still greater desire for something else, namely to lie down beside the tree at the perfect noon hour and sleep. Yeah, the afternoon nap, but 12 and 1 is a good time for a nap. Wake up by 2. This Zarathustra did, and as soon as he lay on the ground in the stillness and secrecy of the many-hued grass, he forgot his slight thirst and fell asleep. For as Zarathustra's proverb says, one thing is more necessary than another. Oh, okay. Zarathustra says one thing is more necessary than the other. So which one is more of a pressing matter? Only his eyes remained open, for they did not tire of seeing and praising the tree and the love of the grapevine. How can you sleep with your eyes open? It's going to make your eyes all dry out your eyes. That would be painful. Falling asleep, however, okay, so he finally closed his eyes. Zarathustra spoke thus to his heart. Still, did not the world become perfect just now? What is happening to me? As a delicate wind dances unseen on an inlaid sea, light feather, light, thus sleep, dances on me. My eyes he does not close, my soul he leaves awake. Light he is, verily, feather light. He persuades me, I know not how. He touches me inwardly with caressing hands. He conquers me, yes, he conquers me and makes my soul stretch out. How, let's see, how she is becoming long and tired, and my strange soul. Did the eve of the seventh day come to here at noon? He has already roamed happily among good and ripe things. Too long, she stretches out, longer, she lies still, my strange soul. Too much that is good has she tasted, this golden sadness oppresses her. She makes a wry mouth, like a ship that has sailed into the stillest cove. Now it leans against the earth, tired of the long voyages and the uncertain seas. Is it not the earth more faithful? The way such a ship lies close to, and nestles to, the land, it is enough if a spider spins its thread to it from the land. No stronger ropes are needed now, like such a tired ship in the stillest cove. I too rest now, near the earth, faithful, trusting, waiting, tied to it with the softest threads. Now, tied to it with the softest threads. So not like a jute twine rope. Oh happiness, would you sing? Oh my soul, you are lying in the grass, but this is the secret solemn hour, when no shepherd plays his pipe. Refrain, hot noon sleeps on the meadows, do not sing, still. The world is perfect, do not sing, you winged one in the grass. Oh my soul, do not even whisper. Behold, still, the old moon sleeps, his mouth moves. Is he not just now drinking a drop of happiness? An old brown drop of golden happiness, golden wine. It slips over him. His happiness laughs. Thus laughs a god still, oh happiness. How little is sufficient for happiness. Now this is an interesting one here. How little is sufficient for happiness. Now gratitude comes to mind. Gratitude, abundancy of choice, abundancy of choice. Okay? When you have a lot of options, you can kind of get dulled by all your options. Want to see a fun test is when you... Okay. When you have a toddler, like a little baby, right? They start to learn to crawl. They'll play with your car keys, an empty water bottle, a spatula. They'll get pretty entertained easily. You don't have to give them a tablet. The tablet is overstimulation. You take that tablet away, give them a spoon, they throw it, they're screaming, right? So you have to think about how can you be happy with less. Now this doesn't mean that I'm telling you have to be a minimalist like me and you can't have some fancy things. But do you remember how I pointed out in the HBO series Succession that family is rich, yet none of them seem very happy by what they have. They always are lacking. This gets into a Buddhistic argument as well. How do you let go of suffering? Pardon me. When you are really attached to material items. When you have this compulsion to keep up with the Joneses, consume, buy. Fast fashion, as in cheap clothes that you can throw away, that you don't have to repair, and you just buy more and then you become a hoarder, and then you're sitting on a pile of junk still with an empty hole inside. If you recall, I made a video, several, it's like a good wife is happy with pure water. And some gold diggers are going to look at me and laugh. Oh, you want me to be happy that my man can provide me with hot water? Who are you? You're a pygmisha. And it's like, hold up, wait a minute. Clean water is more valuable than your stupid Chanel purse. You got it, idiot. So be thankful that you have a husband that can have you live in an area where you have access to clean water. Okay? That's what he brings to the table. And that's so priceless almost. That's life-saving. When an apocalypse happens, what do you always see people run for? Water. Okay? When you don't have water, suddenly your life turns upside down. Like, oh no. And women need water in order to be beautiful. What do I mean by that? To wash your private parts, to smell good, wash your hair, wash your skin. Women get ugly really fast when they can't bathe, okay? When they can't shower. This is a very big deal, okay? A stinky woman is a burden, all right? And water for us to drink keeps our skin hydrated, and we need it when we're pregnant to create amniotic fluid and to make milk for our babies. We need water, okay? And so if you're happy with some nice sparkling water, flat water, purified water, you're really doing well. Put a little bit of fresh mint in your water, slice of lemon. That is a good thing to help you to be happy. People will be like, I'm depressed, give me pills. I'm depressed, give me pills. And you're like, wait a minute. Maybe if you just took a second to look around and realize I have everything like this and that, you might be more happy. Saul Heyman says, I think gratitude for the smaller yet meaningful things allows you to avoid neurotic moods. Yes! Yes! Excellent point on the neurotic part. Very true. Man. Like, there was a time I was playing a video game, The Witcher Wild Hunt, or it was the Witcher game. Wild Hunt, something like that. I kept losing. Game was too hard for me. And I was like, this sucks. And I was so mad that I couldn't win the game, and I was just not good at it at all. It was too complicated, a lot of reading, and I didn't get it. And then I realized, well, at least I have time to even play. At least I have a PlayStation 4. Right? I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, this was years ago. I haven't played my PS4 in over 4 years, because I just took a break from gaming, but I watch other people play online. But again, when you, like, some women will be like, cooking and cleaning, that's horrible. And I'm thinking to myself, I vacuum my carpets every day. I vacuum every day. At least I have a vacuum, and I like the way my carpets look as they're freshly vacuumed. Other people, they don't have that, and they have bad rugs. They don't have nice rugs, and what are you gonna do? You gotta have a nice stuff. Like, people will say, oh, I have to do laundry. Hello, we got laundry machines. I mean, I get to put the coins in. Well, now we use an app, because the laundromat, the laundry service, you had to use an app. So I use the app, but you put your clothes in, then you put them in the dryer. But I mean, think of the dryer. You used to have to hang your clothes outside, hoping it wasn't gonna rain, so that your clothes would be dry. We also have, I know some men don't like fabric softener, but I remember one time my grandma washed my jeans for school. She put them outside. They were so stiff and scratchy. And I was like, no, man, but when you can afford dryer sheets and you put them in the dryer, your pants are all soft and warm and smell great. That's awesome. You have to be thankful for the little things. So when a woman's like, I have to cook, it's like, hello, at least you have a kitchen inside. Before as a civilization, we were like, we had to cook in these little outdoor stuff, It's interesting. Saul Heyman says, gratitude breaks the cycle of comparative thinking, in my opinion. Others are happier, richer, better looking, could be mended once you enjoy your own quality of life. Very true. So freaking true. I really agree with that. So think about that line. Oh, happiness, how little is sufficient for happiness. Because that's the paradox. You'll see people who will be like, I can only be happy if I'm on a private jet with a big booty chick. Or I can only be happy when I'm at the casino dropping mad cash. It's like, no, that's not right. Because you gotta measure up. I used to do these videos back in the day called Thankful Friday. I don't think I have them up anymore. But before I would go to work, I'd always say what I was grateful for, because I didn't like my job, and that helped me to get through that work day. And so, Nietzsche has a point here about making sure that you think about that. Because he mentioned here several times, oh happiness, oh my soul, and he's really touching on something unique for us. Okay, and then remember the proverb he had that said one thing is more necessary than another. So the necessity of water. Assalamualaikum. Okay, my family's back now. I'm gonna, yeah, and I'm gonna end the live stream because she'll come over and attack the tripod to see what I'm looking at, and so I'm gonna end it now. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I appreciate you all being here, and have a great, wonderful day. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and join the vlog.